incredibly blue in the distance. To the east, where the waters of the Shenandoah and the Potomac met, the river banks loomed in vast shoulders. The prisoner saw above these the smoke of Harper's Ferry, where ruin had come to him. The wagon turned into a hollow square of troops, 1,000 of them, and went past a piece of artillery which gaped toward the gallows with gunners at attention. The old man raised his head once more to the valley of the Shenandoah. "This is a beautiful country," he said. "I never truly had the pleasure of seeing it before." "None like it," the sheriff said. The prisoner was first to mount the scaffold, and when he stood above the crowd he snatched off his dusty hat, which he dropped at his feet. His hair rose in an unkempt gray shock. Two men fitted the white hood over his head and adjusted the rope. In the last glimpse of light, the prisoner caught sight of the red and gray uniforms of cadets of the Virginia Military Institute, who stood between the regiments of militia. Once the hood was on, the jailer stirred his feet, as if adapting himself to a new sense of relief. Half a dozen hands thrust over the scaffold, groping for the prisoner's fallen hat, and one of them dragged it off, evading the jailer's vicious kicks. Subdued sounds came from below, where unseen men fought over the souvenir. The old man's voice was muffled by the hood. "I can't see, gentlemen. You must lead me." The sheriff and a guard led him to the trap, where he stood in the broken slippers, waiting. The militia stamped endlessly in the dust below, going back to its places in the square. "You want a private signal now, just before?" the sheriff asked. "It's no matter to me, if only they would not keep me waiting so long." The sheriff and the jailer did not now recognize the old voice they knew so well. It was formal and somehow remote. It was the first slight sign of fear or remorse or even hesitation the old man had shown them, and the two officers exchanged glances of veiled triumph. The militia was 10 minutes at its stumbling, while the old man waited, now and then bending his knees to make himself comfortable. Each of the other figures on the scaffold seemed to grow more rigid as time passed. The sheriff looked far down the hill on every hand, creasing his brow over an expression of childlike earnestness, as if he entertained the fear that someone might storm the hilltop, crowned as it was with a mass of troops, in an effort to deliver the old man. The very young men of the Virginia Military Institute smirked at the awkward militia, but their smiles were fleeting and hidden from the bearded officer who sat his horse on their right front as if daydreaming. The commander was a sorry figure, clasped tightly in a shabby coat. He was the obscure professor of natural and experimental philosophy and artillery tactics from the Institute in Lexington. "Look at old Tom Fool," one of the cadets whispered. "Another wink and he's asleep." "Giving orders to God," another scoffed. "We heard him last night a-praying for old Brown's soul like a damn nigger lover." Major Thomas Jonathan Jackson, almost as if he had heard the words of the child soldiers, stirred and turned his gaze down the line. "Gentlemen," he piped. The cadets fell silent. From the ranks of the Richmond militia across the square, a thin-shouldered infantryman glared at the hooded figure on the scaffold. The militiaman's eyes were dark with excitement, as if he had quite lost himself in the spectacle. He was Private John Wilkes Booth. Major Jackson galloped between the companies, herding them into order, and then settled once more, head lowered, withdrawing into his wrinkled uniform. Already he was thinking of writing a letter to his wife, a description of Old Brown's End. A few nights earlier he had reassured her. "Charlestown, November 28, 1859. I reached here last night in good health and spirits. 7 of us slept in the same room. I'm much more pleased than I expected to be. The people appear to be very kind. There are about 1,000 troops here, and everything is quiet so far. We don't expect any trouble. The excitement is confined to more distant points. Do not give yourself any concern about me. I am comfortable for a temporary military post." There was at length an end to the shuffling of feet in the field, and on the scaffold there were slight movements. The prisoner muttered to his jailer, "Be quick, Avis." The jailer tightened the noose, stepped backward, and the sheriff took a hatchet from a guard. The glinting blade parted a rope, thumped into the wood, and the old man dropped through the platform. The rope whipped back and forth, spinning, rasping.